All right, let's just jump right in. We're about to take a hard look at a piece of advice that is, well, it's everywhere. It's this idea that to manage your emotions, you just need to look inward. But what if I told you that for millions, maybe even billions of people, that advice is not just wrong, it's actually making things worse? Yeah. Let's look at the data. And there it is. You know this one, right? This is the core belief of so much modern self-help and wellness culture. Feeling down, feeling insecure, the answer is always self-acceptance, personal affirmation. And on the surface, it makes total sense. It feels empowering. It seems like the universal solution. But the data tells a completely different story. So what is this? This number, right here, it's a crack in the very foundation of that self-help wisdom. By itself, it looks like nothing, just a random decimal. But this single data point is the key to uncovering a hidden psychological operating system, one that's quietly running in the background for a huge part of the human population. It's a clue that we've been using the wrong map to understand emotional stability. So what does that number actually mean? Well, it represents a statistically significant negative correlation. In simple terms, it shows that for people with a very specific group-first worldview, the more they strongly agree with that self-acceptance idea, the less secure they actually feel. And this isn't some small, quirky finding. This pattern holds true across 66 countries and 22 languages. This is something fundamental about us. And here's the solution to the puzzle. The pattern is incredibly strong in people who operate from what the spiral dynamics model calls the purple vMEME. Now, you can just think of a vMEME as a core value system, a lens for seeing the world. And for the purple mindset, the absolute highest value isn't the self, it's the tribe. Safety, security, it isn't found by looking in the mirror. It's found by looking at the faces of your people and knowing deep down that you belong. This lays out the two models perfectly. On the left, you've got the one we all know, personal affirmation. The internal mantra is, I am enough. But for the purple mindset on the right, the internal question is completely different. It's, are we safe together? See the shift? The entire focus moves from individual self-worth to the emotional harmony and safety of the group. And that right there is the core insight. When your psychological operating system is wired for tribal belonging, being told to focus on yourself when you feel insecure can actually ramp up your anxiety. Why? Because it feels isolating. It completely misses the point of what you're actually searching for, which is a signal that you are secure within the tribe. Okay, so this isn't just a one-off thing. This isn't just about one particular group's quirk. It turns out this is part of a much larger, predictable system. Different worldviews, different vMEMEs, they all use completely different logic to decide if an emotional strategy feels valid or not. And we can actually see it in the data. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. The exact same piece of advice, accept yourself, gets wildly different reactions depending on your worldview. We already saw purple, but look at red. That's the power focus mindset. For them, disagreeing with self-acceptance when they feel insecure is a sign of strength. Then you have the strategic orange mindset, which also rejects it. And what about the relational green mindset? Well, they actually find self-acceptance helpful, but specifically when they feel angry. It's the same tool, but the user manual changes completely based on your operating system. So let's just translate those numbers into plain English. Each of these stages uses a different validation lens. For purple, it's tribal belonging. For blue, it's about following the rules, procedural duty. For red, it's all about power. Orange needs to see strategic effectiveness. Green validates through relational authenticity. And yellow, the systemic view, looks for overall calibration. And this is where it gets really risky. What happens when we apply the wrong model in the real world? It's a chain reaction, like dominoes falling. First, you start measuring and rewarding personal affirmation in a context that actually craves tribal belonging. What happens next? The signals of group safety get weaker. Trust starts to erode. Pretty soon, the group's ability to manage emotions together just falls apart. And all those metrics you were using, they become totally useless. So if we've been using the wrong map this whole time, how do we find the right one? I mean, it's one thing to understand these mindsets, but what if you could actually see them in action? See them inside your own team or your company? Well, the exciting part is we're now getting tools that let us do just that, moving this stuff from abstract theory into measurable, predictable reality. This brings us to this really powerful idea called the algebra of conscience. Just think about that for a second. The concept is that we can take all this messy human stuff, culture, trust, fear, our tribal instincts, and we can actually build it into a rigorous mathematical model. It means we don't have to just guess about the soft stuff anymore. We can actually calculate it. And this is what that looks like in practice. This dashboard is the SD Navigator. Think of it like a flight simulator, but for a group's culture. You can input the psychological DNA of a team, their mix of worldviews, their trust levels, and then you can test out decisions before you make them to see how the group will react. It makes all that invisible wiring suddenly visible. Okay, so you're probably looking at that last screen and thinking, how on earth would I ever use something that complex? And that's where this incredible new trend comes in. It's called AI vibe coding. The whole idea is that very soon you won't need to be a data scientist or a coder to get these kinds of deep insights. You will just talk to the AI. You'll instruct it in plain English. For instance, instead of writing hundreds of lines of code, you could literally just type a question like this. You're having a direct conversation with the data. You ask it what you want to know, and the AI goes and does all the heavy lifting, pulling from thousands of data points to generate the analysis and the visuals you need instantly. The barrier between you and these deep insights, it's about to completely disappear. So we'll leave you with this question, because this is really the heart of it. What breaks when our whole system of validation shifts? When we stop asking, how do I feel about myself? And instead we start asking, how safe do we feel together? What old management styles, what wellness programs, what leadership techniques suddenly become obsolete? And more importantly, what new possibilities for real connection and stability open up when we finally start using the right map?